great to have you back up here again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We had an opportunity to talk a little bit earlier today and got to hear a little bit on what Shawn's background and story was. And I think this next 30 minutes or so, you're just going to absolutely love what he has to talk about and really hear a little bit of his story and his background. We can go ahead and have a seat and we'll just maybe start chit-chatting a little bit. Awesome. I think for a lot of the folks that are financial advisors that are here, you know, they got to hear a little bit about your story. Mm-hmm. Some people got, you know, a brief opportunity when they were coming in to maybe just do a quick meet and greet, but maybe for the rest of the group that, you know, is here and hasn't had a chance to read the book yet or kind of see the background, maybe if you could just give us a little bit of a background into, you know, your story.
Sure. Well, my name is Shawn Harper. Played 7 years professional football for the Rams and for the Colts. I think what makes my story, if you could lower my volume just a little bit. I think what makes my story interesting and somewhat appealing is that I did not take a conventional route to win. I was last in my class in academics, barely started in high school football, 4 to 5 documented learning disabilities, single parent, that classic story there. And I was able to use unusual tactics and strategies to be able to achieve a very high level of success in several arenas. And I just absolutely love this opportunity to share my concept of winning versus success, and that we are all created to win. We all love football. We all love sports. Raise your hand if you love football and sports. Put your hands down. You ever ask yourself why you love football and sports so much? It's almost $1 trillion industry probably. College football, high school football, Pop Warner football, basketball, baseball, soccer. We spend billions of dollars every year on that. And one of the main reasons why is because we can all identify with winning because we have been called to win. Now, I'm not going to get into the biology of it all, but trust me, you're here because you won, trust me. And so that's what I'm about, just encouraging, motivating, and teaching people how to win.
Awesome story. And, you know, living down in Columbus.
Yes, sir.
Great guy. He loves his Buckeyes as well. So another good addition to have. I know Mark's here too, so sorry, Mark. Mark's a Michigan fan.
He's so proud of that.
Yeah. But if you think about your experience in, you know, whether it be the college football or whether it be the NFL, what was your most memorable game day?
Oh, wow. I've had a lot of great experiences. I think one of my most memorable was when we were playing professionally. We were playing the Miami Dolphins. Just driving into the stadium, several players that I played college football with, a former roommate, and just, you know, getting on that field, shaking hands with people that I've known personally, knowing within about another 45 minutes I'm going to cut their head off on the football field. It was just an absolute wonderful time. That locker room, just hanging around, you know, 40 to 50 guys just, you know, one-upping one another and arguing and yelling, having that testosterone and ego just bounce off each other. It is just absolutely remarkable, and honestly, I miss that more than anything else.
You talked a lot, you know, today. I think one of the great examples of that you shared today that I really hadn't heard somebody talk about was the difference between a mentor and a coach.
Right.
You know, and I think, you know, we did the interview with Mike Jarvis earlier this year, and we talked about why everybody needs a head coach and, you know, how that really ties into a lot of, I think, what we do as financial professionals in helping, you know, coach our advisors. So, we try to talk to them in those moments of don't panic, don't get out, or, you know, don't get greedy, be careful. Maybe if you could just describe a little bit about what you talk about in your book on somewhat of the difference between, say, a coach and a mentor.
So, in my opinion, a coach can push you. A coach can encourage you. But an actual mentor, as I mentioned earlier this morning, a good mentor is a tormentor. He or she is saying, you know, this is where I'm at, this is where you need to go, and I'm going to pull you to this level. I'm going to look past your actual accomplishments. I'm not concerned about your accomplishments. I'm concerned about you winning. And in my opinion, you need both. You need that support and that push, but you also need someone standing 40, 50 yards away, 20, 30 years away. Just like a great father or a great grandparent can mentor their son or their grandson or their daughter or their granddaughter. Like, look, I've lived it. I've seen it. I've been there, okay? You don't want to make that mistake. Now, whether we listen or not is a different story, but you need both. You need the parent, and then you need that mentor that's, some years away, like, hey, come this way, come that way, make this change, make that adjustment.
Absolutely, I agree. We, just got done seeing some charts from Darren. He was showing, the great 10 years in a row that the market's been, having this phenomenal run, and, a lot of us have been blessed by it. But I think one of the challenges as an investor here is it gets easy to get comfortable.
Right.
It's easy to get comfortable thinking that it's going to just keep coming easy.
Right.
And you probably have a lot of experience of, some of the dangers of just getting comfortable.
A good coach encourages you to have a short memory. Whether it's up or down, you have a short memory. The Buckeyes had a fantastic game. And I'm not in the locker room and I'm not at practice, but I can guarantee you Coach Meyer is bringing them right back down to earth, saying, you know what, you have a game this week, which they probably will lose to my alma mater, Indiana University. But you have a great game this week. I need to bring you back down. I need to, jump on you a little more, give you a proper perspective, a proper mindset, and a proper ethic to when you get on that field, you are playing as if you're playing for the national championship. And if you don't, you will lose. And you can always tell the sort of a good or great coach is how well he can give a proper perspective to his athletes.
So it's every day is a game day.
Every day is a game day.
Absolutely.
Every single day.
If you think about it, mistakes that are made in the NFL that can cost the game, mistakes that we as investors make, can cost us our retirement, can cost us peace of mind. What are other type of mistakes that maybe you would think about that, are other experiences that are mistakes that us as, investors should be looking out for and watching out for?
Well, speaking personally, I love to have an outside opinion to minimize my mistakes, because a lot of my mistakes are emotionally based. They teach you to watch certain indicators like the VIX or whatever, but you know what, I'm like, the market's doing well, I want to jump in there, and my advisor's like, don't you move. Or the stock is just getting hammered right now, and this mutual fund is underperforming. But having an outside coach or a mentor saying, we've weathered this before, get your emotion out of the game, I'm going to do it for you, do not pull the trigger. That has saved me thousands of dollars. Having a competent third-party individual that I trust to say, you know what, you're in the box, you're in the coordinator's box, I'm seeing it from this perspective, you're seeing it from this perspective, I'm seeing 2 years from now, you're seeing 30 years from now, plus you got about 30 years of back testing data, I trust you.
We talked a lot today about, within the book, and the book is The Winning Edge. It's the 8 principles on bringing out the winner in you. A lot of you had an opportunity to grab this book and get this book as you came in. For anybody who did not get this book, we do have copies for everybody that came out today. If you just stop by the registration table, we can make sure that we get you a copy if you don't have one. Love to have you. But within this, you talk a little bit about, figuring out kind of who you are and using that to grow. I think you shared a little bit of an experience about, when you made that decision to, kind of get in the game and go full bore at, getting into, professional football. What would you say about, what a lot of us need to know about ourselves and how we can use that knowledge to do better things?
Well, so who you are is basically who you've defined yourself to be. A lot of people live their life, if I could use this example, like a bat. A bat flies around, a bat is blind, so a bat sends out signals, and then from its environment, it figures out where it is and who it is and what it's And what are the opportunities? Well, with so much that's being thrown at you 24 hours a day, indicators, financial news, social news, basically, if you're not careful, it will help define who you really are. And so what you have to do is that you have to be consistently and constantly grounded in who you are and not allow people or situations or circumstances or media help define you, help define your riches or your wealth or your social status and standings. It's sort of like stop being a thermostat and being a thermometer. There's a difference. One reacts to the temperature, one responds to the temperature. And so my fight and the fight of my family is to be that thermometer. So we might not spend money on a brand new Lexus but you know what, my son's going to go to a great college instead because I'm responding to the atmosphere, not reacting. And to be honest, that's a battle because it's always trying to pull me into different directions and social settings and keeping up with the Joneses. And the Joneses are broke.
It sounds like your son so far has got started off in Dad's footsteps too.
Dad is torturing him.
Kind of like my kids following in the financial footsteps. Failures. I think failures is a thing that can paralyze people sometimes.
Right.
And it's something that is an occurrence. It really doesn't necessarily define your future. But I know a lot of times people are concerned about making decisions because it could result in failing, and so the decision that they make is to do nothing.
Right. Which
What have you learned about that experience?
Well, it's like riding a bike. And who all in here knows how to ride a bike? You raise your hand. Okay, awesome. For the one of you, few who doesn't, I'm sorry. But riding a bike is all about failing. Your mama or your father gets behind you and you have that desire and they put you on a bike and they push you. And you ride for about 10 yards and you fall and you scrape your knee and you get back up on the bike because your parents are encouraging you or a coach encourages you to get back on the bike, and you just keep falling and you keep failing until you succeed. I cannot tell you the stats on how many very successful, affluent people failed in their endeavors. That's a part of the process. That's the greatest teacher. Life gives you the test, then it teaches you the lesson. And your job is to sit back and learn from the lesson and keep playing to win.
Absolutely. The theme that we had in putting this all together was on making an impact. And, we had an opportunity to talk a little bit about it before and talk during today. And, again, just going over the fact that here we are, we've got a great group of financial professionals that flew from all over the U.S. to come join us for the last couple of years. We've had this explosive business growth. We think about, our clients and what the markets have done. And, even people have been able to retire much more comfortably today than maybe where they were in 2008. And, we get to that point where we're able to do more, we're able to make an impact, and that's why I brought some of the organizations that were here just to kind of bring that up. And again, I know everybody here in their own rights are doing great things that, are making an impact in the community of what you're doing. But I do think one of the things that was unique of what you had talked about earlier today, and you also talk about in your book, is, not getting stuck with the limitations and being able to think bigger and do bigger things. And going from where you were at, from your background of your mom raising you and, with your family, and to getting to the level that you got to, you had to really think big, do big, and act big. So how could we take and learn from that and be able to make a bigger impact?
Redefining your why. I believe that what happens is that, and I'm just going to speak for myself, not that I'm being self-centered or myopic. I don't want to put a judgment upon you, but I've reached a certain age where I'm like, okay, I can just coast this thing on through. I could just, but then I sat down maybe about several months ago. I said, I need to redefine my why. because I'm still here for a reason. I'm here for a reason, and I'm here for a season. And I started looking around like, what is going to charge me to go and take over another kingdom, another opportunity, to push forward, to plant seeds under the shade trees that I'll never sit under. And you know what? Two things came to me. First was my legacy, and second was my in-laws, and actually my mom. You know, she's 80 years of age, okay? In about 10 years, you know, if she's still around, what's going to be her, you know, what is going to be her level of health, of comfort, okay? And so there's 5 brothers and sisters, but I'm taking on that opportunity. I'm taking on that responsibility. So you know what? My mind is shifting already. And then I'm looking at organizations that I can give to, organizations that help me, like the Salvation Army, Charity Newsies, King's Ransom, Samaritan's Purse. I'm like, you know what? They were there for all 5 of us, and including me, that's 6, and she adopted one, that's 7. They were there giving Christmas gifts. They're handing out food and clothing and shelter. So you know what? I've been blessed to give back. And so I have redefined my why, and that has now given me the motivation to move forward.
I know it's not very often we get an opportunity to talk to somebody as talented as what your experience and your background is. And one of the things that I enjoyed today is you kind of opened it up a little bit to questions and answers. And I think that was a great time this afternoon, just hearing what the different questions that people had. Any thoughts that you want to add before we do that? Or I would be more than happy to open it up if we have a couple of questions that anybody would like to ask.
Well, you know what? If you have any questions at all, I will answer. This is just my disclaimer. I'm going to speak my heart, and I hope this doesn't offend you. And if it is, send me an email. But if you have any questions, I honestly enjoy this. But before I answer questions, I just want to say thank you for partnering with an amazing individual, an amazing organization. He's not paying me for this right now, and I'm telling you, it's very rare to meet someone who is in the investment in the financial field, but yet has a heart to give. It's almost equal. It is rare, and you have a rare gem with this organization, and I just wanted to just encourage you to not only to move forward with this amazing organization, number 1. Number 2, invite people that you know. And number 3, bring your grandkids or start educating them and walking them into the process, because it's all about winning. That's what it's really about. It's about winning. And this man right here is a winner.
I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, any questions at all?
So is Nolan your financial advisor?
Not yet. Just met him. All the way in the back.
What was your aha moment when you said, I'm tired of being the lowest person in the class, and I want to get out of here and up to here?
So you said, what was your aha moment when you were here and you wanted to get to there?
Well, I had a few of them. I'll share one with you, the one that just popped in my mind. I went off to a junior college, a 2-year college in Mason City, Iowa, and my mom dropped me off at that junior college in Mason City, Iowa, and she had tears in her eyes, and I kind of read through the tears of sadness versus the tears of, okay, God, I've got him to this point. And my mom, as I mentioned this morning, you don't know this, but she scrubbed floors for a living in a very affluent neighborhood in Columbus. And she used to come home with just sores on her body. And she never graduated from high school. And she pushed and she pushed and she pushed to where she was able to get me up into the cornfields of Mason City, Iowa. And I made a decision that I'm going to make my mom proud. And one day, if she's around, I'm going to purchase the house that she worked at. Are there
Any other questions that anybody has?
anything? Trust me, I'll ask. Well, I'll answer.
Who was the funniest character you met in the locker room?
Oh, that's very, very easy.
So the question was, who's the funniest character you met in the locker room?
Yeah. When I played for the Colts, there was a big defensive tackle. It's an Italian who thought he was a mobster. I promise you, he thought. This guy thought he would come with the trench coat, the hat on, he was a mobster. His name was Tony Saragusa. His nickname was the Goose. And he was hilarious. And I don't know why the coach, Ted Marchibroda, gave him poetic license, but he could do what other players couldn't do. I mean, he would have practical jokes and pranks that would interrupt practice, and they'll say, oh, that's just Goose. But he really made the tormentous time of two-a-day practices and even during the season fun. So hands down, I have to give it to the Goose. Yeah.
Bill, did you have a question?
Yeah. What kind of, growing up?
Sure.
When you got to high school or after elementary school, did you live in a neighborhood or an area where you had the gang issues? The issues. Was it your mom that kept you out of that? How did you get through with that?
Yeah. Mama, she was a very strong woman, and she had to be to raise 6/7 kids by herself. She had very strenuous rules, and she ruled the house. And if I could also say, I hope this is not offensive, but I know that God played a huge role in that, and I have to acknowledge that, even if that's offensive. But He had a huge role in that. She kept us in church, and the little school bus would come around on Sunday. She put us all on the bus every Sunday. But yeah, it was that. Yeah.
What'd you do after your career ended to replace that sort of competitive spirit? Like, obviously you can't go out there and rip somebody's head off in everyday life, but what sort of things did you do to replace that aspect of your life?
Two things. I started speaking, and just moving, just encouraging and investing in people, which I think is the greatest investment. And then I opened a company, and I basically drove my office crazy for years because I'm operating at this high level, and they don't see the things, or they don't see things the way I see things. Because when I walk into a situation, I'm like, seek and destroy, and they're like, no, best practices, and I'm like, whatever. Let's go right now, let's win right now. So what it actually encouraged me to do was to learn how to extract football strategies, techniques, and make them applicable in the workplace. So most people and most organizations try to take a professional athlete and convert them into a corporate person, but I believe the opposite. We are trained athletes that have such high level of discipline, and we're thorough in our grit. How do we now don't change that, but convert that into a way that is applicable, or you can apply it into the workplace, and the results are phenomenal. And so once I've learned how to do that, it has helped me. In fact, to back up that, there's a study in Forbes that says like 90% of all female C-level execs were collegiate athletes.
So I think we maybe have time for one more question. Is there one final question anybody would like to ask?
Yes.
You mentioned overcoming several disabilities.
Sure.
Just expand on that just a little bit.
So I was documented, I had to repeat the first grade, and I was documented with 4 to 5 learning disabilities by the time I was in the 5th grade. There was about 4 or 5 of them, actually. Thank you. And that was a huge blow to me. Dyslexia, ADHD, root memorization, spatial shape recognition, and the list goes on and on. And I was expecting pity, but my mom would not let them put me in special class, and so I had to tough it through, but it taught me a different way to learn and a different way to think, to the point now I'm standing here today that I'm not disabled, I'm uniquely enabled. It's like, it's like every superhero has his or her weaknesses, and what do? Do you focus on your weaknesses or do you focus on your strengths? I mean, Superman has kryptonite, right? Does he run around saying, oh God, I got kryptonite deficiency syndrome? You know? Or does he fly through the wall and let Wonder Woman handle the kryptonite? And so that is my goal, and that's my mindset is I play to win. And you know, most people have maybe one assistant, I might have two assistants, but it doesn't matter. You know, just keep head forward, keep grinding, using your grit, do that duty that is best, leave unto the Lord the rest.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shawn Harper.